Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your overly caffeinated host, the uh, host of the largest podcast in the US insurtech space, the Mad Hatter of insurance himself, and the magician, a professionally trained magician, Tony Cañas. And I do have my hat, but I have to put on my headphones because I was driving my girlfriend nuts. So I'm not wearing the hat right now. But ChatGPT might fix that later. Today we have with us Daniel Smith, co-founder and chief marketing officer at Market Retrievers. Daniel, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going well, Tony. Glad to see the magic.
Thank you. And I am pitching the second in a doubleheader and wearing my beloved Rice Insurance, the best industry to work in shirt, which is the first thing I grab whenever it is clean.
Fair enough.
So according to LinkedIn, you are in Nashville, Tennessee, not far from where I am in Atlanta, Georgia. Did you happen to go to Insurance Innovators this week? I wasn't there, but it was in Nashville this week.
Yeah, I met up with some of the Scout InsurTech's folks, and we hosted a reception
Fantastic.
there. Yeah, good people.
Fantastic. Yes. So you were hanging out with Chris, Louise, and with my sister from another mother, Sarah Salcido.
I saw
Saira
Chris and
Salcido.
Andrew. Yeah, good people, and we had a good crowd come out for that.
Good, fantastic. That's gonna okay. Nashville, I am guessing, based on the weather here in Atlanta, Georgia, not far from you. I am guessing that Nashville is. We're recording on May 21st. I'm guessing beautiful, not yet scorching hot.
Right. Yeah, we're in the season of temperamental weather in the South, right? So nice, sunny out today. Yesterday, baseball-sized hail. So just what
Baseball
every underwriter wants to
sized
see.
hail.
Yeah.
Wow, that brings me back. I started my insurance career at Farm Bureau of Iowa, in the Express Claims call center, and I remember my boss Dan Barons in like October, during a company meeting or a team meeting, explaining it's been a really good year. We're looking at a good bonus. Then again, if we get hail in Omaha, all bets are off.
Yeah, doesn't take much, right, to ruin all the loss ratios.
Exactly. All right. So Daniel, we always give the guest a chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Market Retrievers?
Sure. We are a digital marketing firm, started 4 years ago, work primarily in the insurance space with retail agents, brokers, carriers, insurtechs, and really just try to help them tell their story online and what we call fetch their targets. So we do that by helping them map out a strategy and then helping with the implementation, execution of that, and the measurement of what might be working and what might not be working. So that's the speech.
Okay, fantastic. So I was taking notes. Okay, so digital marketing firm, 4 years old, primarily insurance. So brokers, agencies, carriers, insurtechs, help them fetch their targets. I gotta say, your market really does go full circle. So the name, Market Retrievers, the logo is a golden retriever. The picture behind you, a home with no dog, ain't no home at all. The only thing missing is Fido joining the podcast with you. So
Yeah, Drago, who's our dog, he is not here, or he would be taking over the show. So I didn't
fantastic,
want him to intrude too much into that.
fantastic. All right. And you help all of those insurance organizations map out a strategy, implementation, execution, measuring, making sure it's working. Okay. So one thing that and I should say I'm a carrier guy, right? I'm a former middle market underwriter who accidentally ended up running the largest podcast in the insurtech space. I have never worked a day of my life in an agency. I have never worked a day of my life in an insurtech. I have worked with agencies in many ways, as a underwriter, as a marketing rep, as a recruiter nowadays. I've had some of them on Profiles in Risk if they're doing some interesting stuff. Uh, I get lots of them calling into chatwithtony.com and I give them advice. And I always start with, but I've never worked at an agency, not a day in my life, right? Okay. I'm also not a digital marketer, although I play one on TV fairly well, or on LinkedIn rather. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is my opinion. No, I remember. Okay, let me go back a little bit. I remember when I first got my territory as an Allied Insurance, that's the old Nationwide Independent Lines,
Sure. Yeah.
Allied Insurance inside sales manager in California. And so Nationwide relocated me from Columbus, Ohio to Sacramento, California, and gave me a territory of a bunch of small agencies in Northern California to be managed internally, go out on the field every once in a while. And I remember this list of like 70 or 80 agencies. And first thing I did is look them up online, look up their websites. And this was 2013, maybe 14, 13 sounds about right. And let's just say that they weren't on GeoCities, but they weren't far from GeoCities. They had their own domain name. They looked like GeoCities, right? Or Tripod. You have to be like old internet to remember this, okay? If you are a Gen Zer, you have no idea what I'm talking about. All right. So just not very good. And then that was also reflective of everything else they do when it comes to digital marketing, right? And the carriers weren't a ton better. I remember, for example, trying to buy insurance for my Vespa scooter because I had to replace it. I sold my old one in Ohio and I bought a new one in California because the Ohio one was in California legal. So 4-stroke versus 2-stroke kind of thing. So I received my new scooter and of course I want to buy Nationwide insurance because I'm employed by Nationwide and I bleed Nationwide blue at the time. And I go to the website, I get a quote, and then it tells me to call the 800 number to buy it, right? Just we're not very good at the digital marketing side. Okay, things have hopefully gotten better, but we have lots of need for what you guys do, basically. All right, so let's tell me about the process. So when a new agency or MGA or whatever insurance organization calls you and they need help, how does that process look like? How do you help us come up with a strategy and then implement it?
Yeah, kind of to your point. So, everybody you talk about in this industry, I feel like will tell you that it's a relationship business, it's a referral business. But then, to your point earlier, you said you'd go to a website or now you'd look up social media and you'd say, I don't see the people. You're talking about relationships, you're talking about referrals. I go to your Google and you don't have reviews. I go to your website and you don't show photos of your agents or your customers or who you're trying to have as your clients, testimonials. So we do an assessment. We go in and we look at all these items and say, this is what we think you're showing as the culture of your agency or your company or your insurtech. Is that what you're trying to portray? And usually they'll tell you no, but maybe we didn't have the time or we were afraid to use referrals as ways to market for business. And yeah, so you talk through those things and you realize a lot of times they're not portraying the story they want to tell. So
Mm-hmm.
we talk through how they can do that. We tell them what we've seen work well for others, and we try to help them tell that story in a better way that does portray their culture and does portray the relationships they're trying to build, the knowledge they have, etc.
All right. So culture. Okay. So every agency talks about their company culture. Every carrier does too. Every agency talks about uh, a relationship business. They're not wrong. This is a relationship business. Absolutely, 1,000% it is a relationship business. It's why I recently hit 29,000 connections on LinkedIn. It's taken me 15 years to build that, right? Because this is a relationship business.
Yeah.
But it is also a sales business, and it is also a trust business. And yes, ultimately, the ultimate trust is we paid your claim and we paid it well on time and in a good experience. The carrier is heavy on that side. But trust is also like gaining trust in the modern world is also your online presence and your social media matches your in-person culture. Okay, let me put it this way. I just thought of this. So I'm a magician. So I run a little magic business on the side, uh, and magic is very, very, very in-person type of business. Yes, some magicians made the move to Zoom during COVID, but magic is all about making that human connection in person. Okay. You know how I market my magic business? Yes, I do have business cards that I hand out on the Atlanta Beltline. Okay. Google reviews. As soon as
Yeah.
I do a trick for somebody and it looks like they like it, my little baggie with magic, I turn it around and there's a QR code and it says Google review, and I ask them to leave me a Google review. Right, Gig Salad is the number one page where people buy services from magicians and other artists. Uh, my reviews on Gig Salad are money in my pocket, right? So same story for agencies. So yes, continue and do tell me if I'm wrong. But my perspective
No.
as a non-professional marketer, yes, continue sponsoring the local football team. That's not going to be enough with millennials and Gen Zers, who are, by the way, even if you're a commercial lines agency, who are inheriting a massive amount of small businesses over the next few years. Uh, so I am kind of blown away. When you said that sometimes they're afraid. I thought you were going to say they're afraid to be on Twitter, which is crap anymore. I thought you were going to say they're afraid to do video, or they're afraid to do a podcast, or they're afraid to do some little bit more modern stuff. They're afraid to get referrals or to ask for referrals.
They're afraid to use their referrals, Tony, to show the examples of what they've done for others.
Okay.
I think that comes from sometimes saying, oh, people will try to steal our client. Well, they're already trying to. So
Yeah. Yes.
it's not really a difference if you talk about doing a good job for someone. And if you really did a good job for them, unless they're a price sensitive client or they've had claims and they're not going to get renewed, they should be staying with you anyway.
And yes,
So,
if they
yeah.
are a price sensitive client, unless your last name is Buffett, right? Or unless you are Geico, Progressive, or maybe the General, uh, they are not a good client for you, right? So like it drives me crazy how the carriers. I wrote an article about this called "Sleeping with the Enemy Might Be the only way to save personal lines," and this article is like 12 years old now, maybe longer than that. And basically, I called for the industry to come together and start doing, especially the mutuals, the large mutuals, come together and start marketing in a non-funny way and educate the client in why the mutuals are better, right? Educate the client on the actual product, but instead they keep spending billions of dollars on funny marketing that attracts the wrong type of client. Now, I read the Buffett letters every year. Buffett just retired a couple of weeks ago, right? By the way,
Yeah,
if anybody at Berkshire is listening and you can get Buffett on the podcast, I will fly to Omaha to do this in person. All right,
absolutely.
totally will. All right. Uh, so. By the way, Ajit also. I would also fly to Omaha to interview Ajit. Okay.
Of
Uh,
course.
so I, yeah, ADHD. Okay. Um, it, yeah, in the Buffett letters, Buffett constantly talks about how, hey, Geico is an incredible producer of money for Berkshire, and incredibly profitable, and uh, Geico has an unlimited budget to advertise. Basically, like he's more big. They ran the math, right? Like for every dollar they spend in advertising, they make, I don't know, $7 or something. And the Berkshire has some of the deepest wallets in the world. Uh, you're not gonna out advertise Geico for the client that Geico wants,
No.
right? So focus on the client that actually makes sense for you, and they're not funny clients, right? Okay. Um, so you do the help them figure out how to translate their culture into an online world. Basically, it sounds like that's kind of where you start.
Yeah, a little bit. And part of that is the competitive advantage, Tony. And
Mhm.
when we ask any agent that, and the most carriers that, they tell you it's their
The
service.
exact same thing. They tell you the exact
Yeah.
same thing. Yes.
And it's not that they're wrong necessarily, but it's just that that doesn't set them apart. It
Mm-hmm.
everybody says that whether it's completely true or not, it's what they say is their answer. So you have to come up with something that's a little different, whether that's the experience the client has working with them, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's the knowledge they have in all these specialties and niches that they go after now, whether it's the culture of their agency, whether it's what they do in their community. To your point earlier, let's say they do sponsor all the little league teams and the local nonprofits. That's great. Are they leveraging that in a way that shows how much they care about their community? And I'm not saying to brag about it, but it is, hey, we care about it. We live here. We know the people here. We insure them, but we're also in their community. And that's why this matters to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, talking about that is part of showcasing that culture. That's the kind of things we're talking about. To your point about spending money on funny ads and all that, there's also a reason that Geico and all these others are trying to use independent agents now because they realize there's a segment of the market they're not reaching
Mm-hmm.
with that type of marketing.
Absolutely.
So you have to consider the different audience. And that's why we say that part of the process has to be to fetch your targets because you have to figure out who your audience is and where they're at. And they're probably not the people that are buying off of a commercial in the middle of the day or buying off of just a Google search alone. They want that to be part of the process. They're not choosing based on those pieces alone.
Tell me about the COLLAR process, trademark
Yeah.
pending.
Yeah, we try to spell it out for people. So that's kind of our collar process.
Love it.
And we utilize that to just showcase what we're doing. So when we're talking about collecting information and we're talking about figuring out all the audience and we're talking about getting you all this information and data, we're just trying to spell that out because to your point earlier, even though you do a lot of good marketing, you said I'm not a professional marketer. Well, even more so the case, right, for most people in this industry, they don't even do marketing of themselves to try to self promote typically. So we understand that's not their forte. Their forte is understanding insurance and helping other people understand and know what to buy and what to use. So since we understand marketing, we're trying to help convey to them that process and how it can help them tell the story. And then we try to help them understand some of the things that they may not recognize, which are they want to educate people a lot of times on insurance. Is that what their audience wants? Not always. Their audience wants to know what might impact them, but you can't go to them and say, hey, let me tell you all about inland marine insurance when they don't care anything about it. So you have to understand what kinds of information, what kinds of content can we use that will impact them in a positive way that they're interested in learning more about. So it has to be about what they want to know, not just what we want to tell them.
Absolutely. The inland marine example is fantastic because in the inland marine is the dumbest term in insurance. And it only starts making sense to you after you worked in the industry for a few years, and then you forget that it is the dumbest term in insurance, right? But if you talk to your client, maybe if this is a middle like a middle market commercial lines business, and they have a professional risk manager, then maybe the word inland marine means something. But your average client, if the email starts with "you need an inland marine policy," this is not going to sell as a single policy, and it's going to get you a couple of replies going, "I don't have a boat."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're bad about that in the industry, right? We use terminology and we use abbreviations that people don't understand. And instead of doing something where we just try to make it easier on the initial part, we have a mindset of, oh no, we need to educate them in general. They need to learn insurance like we know it. No, we need to be better about saying, this is what this would do. We happen to call it this, but I want to explain to you on the front end what it actually would help cover and protect. So I think to your point, it's like make sure that you're saying things that the common person is going to understand, whether it's a business client or whether it's a consumer.
I learned a big marketing lesson at a PetSmart back in California in like 2013, in like 2015 or so. I was waiting for an agency meeting when I was a field sales manager for American Modern, and I right have a few minutes to kill, like I don't know, like 45 minutes to kill. I had already had lunch, and the agent wasn't ready to see me yet. So I'm in a little strip mall very close to their office. I walked into a PetSmart thinking I'm gonna go play with the dogs, uh, and I end up in the fish area, and I ended up writing an article about it because I know nothing about fish. Uh, in one of the fish tanks with a big sign, and one tank was goldfish, right? Buy a 25-cent goldfish. By the way, my kind of mind blowing that you can buy like a living being for less than $1. Uh,
Yeah.
and then the next tank over, fancy goldfish for like $17, right? And then it goes up from there. So I'm sure that fancy gold, and in fact, fancy goldfish has like the species name underneath fancy goldfish. You could have just the species name, but to the final client, that doesn't mean anything, right? Fancy goldfish hits what that is, right? It's a bigger goldfish. It's probably going to live longer than a week. So yeah, you can traumatize your kid with a 25-cent goldfish that'll live for a week and a half, or you can get a fancy goldfish that might actually go longer, right? I thought it was just fantastic marketing, uh, and
Yeah.
and we need more of that in insurance, especially at the agency side, right? Carriers, if you're an independent lines carrier and arguably your client is the agency, then arguably a little bit more technical language is fine. You still need to offer an amazing user experience for the agency and ultimately treat the client right at claim time, et cetera, et cetera. But you can get away with a little more if you're the agency, especially if you're a personal lines agency or a small commercial, but especially personal lines, you cannot speak in insurance lingo.
Yeah. Especially personal lines, to your point, I feel like sometimes there's some terms that maybe might even turn off some of the people you're talking to. And I always think about, we say high net worth. So I'm in Nashville. You know what the prices are like here for homes. You know what they're like in Buckhead outside Atlanta. You tell those clients that they'd be a high net worth client. Well, they may say to you, I don't consider myself that, but it's really more about what the assets you're protecting for them. But maybe they don't like that terminology. So you see some people say private client. Well, what does that mean? That doesn't necessarily mean anything to them. They use that in banking, but that's always something that sometimes things like that, I think people should be a little more careful with how they approach it and say, this is what it means when we say this. The assets that we're helping you protect are of higher value than what we typically see. So just kind of describing a little of that on the front end without kind of assuming that they may know or like what you're calling some of those things, I think can be important. Now, the positioning is important too, like you said. So that goldfish that was higher priced, you can tell them, hey, you're getting a more elite level of policy, of coverage protection, of what's
Mm-hmm.
in there. And yes, I think they do like that. And that's about positioning it. And I think people position their agencies the same way. We have agencies that we work with that certainly position themselves as working with people that have higher levels of assets or businesses that understand their coverages a little more and care a little more about what they're having covered. So
Good.
that's a little different. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that ties into what you said with Goldfish.
Good marketing on high net worth. I've worked with some high net worth agencies on the recruiting side to help them. There's a high net worth agency in Long Island that actually serves the whole country, and we helped them find the COO, and he's killing it. And we've worked with a few other high net worth agencies, so I know that space fairly well. Uh, and I've noticed that when we talk internally, right, when they're like, "Hey, Tony, we need a COO, we need a producer, we need an account manager," they say high net worth, and I say high net worth because I speak insurance. Uh, but on their website, they talk about we specialize in helping successful families
Yeah.
uh, speak the customer's language. Absolutely. Uh, all right. Map out a strategy, implementation, and execution. Okay. So I think we've talked a lot about the strategy and a little bit of implementation. Um, Execution and especially how do we measure success? Because I struggle with that with insurance nerds, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a marketing person. I have no idea how to measure success. So how do you help them design a way to measure success?
Certainly. So on that front end, you start talking about what are some of those goals you want to reach. So do you want more reviews, more Google reviews? Do you want more traffic? Do you want more quotes coming in? Or are you hoping to say that you'll be in scenarios where you're talking to people about their business or personal insurance and you say, oh, well, they told me they've already heard of our agency and they've heard good things. You can't place a value on that, but it's extremely meaningful for people to already think you have some credibility in the
Mm-hmm.
marketplace. So we try to set the expectations of, okay, do you have traffic goals? Do you have review goals? Do you have goals of brand awareness? And then let's achieve that and make sure that you're seeing either analytics to match up with that, or your team is aware that this is out there and they're getting feedback that it's effective. So we hear that a lot. We hear people telling these agencies and these carriers and whoever we're working with, oh, I've heard of you guys. I've heard good things. They're getting that more so than they were getting it before. They're seeing more reviews. They're getting more traffic. Now, conversion can be a whole secondary level of this. And some of that is, are you measuring on your side what's converting from where? So, do you know if you get a phone call that those people have done some research and looked at your site and your social media? Probably not, unless you ask them about where they kind of did this research.
Uh-huh.
So, can be hard to measure. There's usually a pretty appreciable way they start to see these things as long as everybody's aware that this is part of the goal. So that's why we try to make it clear in the strategy of what those goals are so everybody's on the same page.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what it sounds like, you really customize to what they're trying to achieve. You help them figure out what options they have when it comes to what to optimize for, and then you create the program based on that.
Yeah, definitely. Because to your point, you mentioned earlier, you were talking about, we were saying we were afraid to do this and this. Video is something that a lot of them don't want to do. The ones that say, yes, I do think that's a good part of our strategy, then that should be different than a lot of these others we work with because they're not going to do videos.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to customize to their own style too. We have agencies and we have other business in the industry. They're very corporate in their strategy. We want to only
Uh-huh.
do these things and we
Uh-huh.
want to keep it in kind of this space. Some people say, we could be kind of funny with it. We could use some memes or some funnier things. And some people might say, nah, our audience trends older, or maybe they wouldn't like this as
For
much, which
now.
I don't. Yeah, I don't always agree with them, but I understand their point, and I say, well, if that's what your audience prefers, then we should do this and this. But just know that you could have impact in this space because there's still not as many people doing video, trying different
Mm-hmm.
things that are more trendy. Even though video is not the same as far as just being a trend nowadays, it's still something our industry doesn't do as much.
Video is hard. Video is hard. And I've gone through it. Video is harder emotionally than it is when it comes to execution. Let me kind of explain my way there. We ran the Insurance Nerds podcast, excuse me, the Insurance Nerds blog for like 4 years and 300 articles, telling ourselves, hey, we should have a podcast. We should have a podcast. We should have a podcast. Finally, we started the podcast. And funnily enough, this before COVID, we would record on Zoom and throw away the video and keep only the audio because that was the
Oh,
definition of
wow.
of a podcast. So I don't have video for the first 100 episodes, even though we recorded on video. Okay. Then when we started recording on video, we had to tell the guests that, hey, this is going to be on video because they were not expecting it. Now, post COVID, everybody understands that it's going to be on video. Okay. And then we ran the podcast for like 300 episodes, and we had a YouTube channel that had nothing on it. And after about 300 episodes of saying we really should be doing video, we finally started doing video. And once you get once you get the gist of it, video is easier than anything else. Actually, the podcast is the easiest, in my opinion. The podcast is the easiest. Video second. Nowadays, I have a hard time getting myself to write an article. In fact, I'm having a hard time writing my second book because every time I have a good idea, I turn it into a video instead. Right. And then like it's hard to sit down and do the book, which is more effort and longer term and right. Uh, uh, Once you get good at video, and by the way, you will not get good at video. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a professional marketer. You will not get good at video by spending thousands of dollars on equipment. You will get good at video by doing lots of video. And eventually you'll invest in equipment, but the reps is what's going to get you good at it. Same thing with podcasts. Same thing with writing articles, writing the blog. The Lamparelli, Nick Lamparelli, who started our podcast. I'm the shoot from the hip type, but our other co-founder, Carly Burnham, who is no longer at Insurance Nerds, she's still in insurance. She's not an Insurance Nerds. Carly was our chief risk officer for a long time. Basically, preventing reputational damage. And eventually we realized that, hey, if we continue to be tiny, it doesn't matter if we avoid reputational damage. We need to grow the brand to have, and then we can worry about reputational damage. So for now, we need to take, we need to be adventurous, right? And we understand the industry really well. So like we knew not to get in trouble. But so the first podcast recording, if it had been up to Carly, we would have recorded 16 times, right? Lamparelli told us he hadn't done it either, but he said the first episode's going to suck, and that's fine because nobody's going to listen to it. And that is true for everything. Like your first video will suck, and that's fine because you don't have a following on the video platforms yet, right? So just do it. Just do it. Now, you can afford professional help and get market retrievers to help you do it, even better, right? And then the comment on well, we know our listeners are a little older, or our buyers are a little older. Your current buyers are a little older. Those current buyers will hand over the reins to their businesses and their homes eventually to their millennial and Gen Z kids. Millennials are, I am 42 years old now, and I am not the very oldest millennial. Okay. More than half the workforce today is millennials and Gen Zers for whom video is native.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to reach an audience and you're concerned with anything like, oh, isn't SEO shifting to an AI search result tool? It's starting to some. It is not doing that on video. People are going to YouTube, TikTok, wherever, looking at reels on Instagram every day, saying, oh, I can use this as a source of information. And if you have video out there, you're still getting it in front of people. You're still finding that audience and you're still educating folks, and you can see your view count and your interaction. And to your point that I always try to share with people, yes, your audience is getting younger whether you want them to or not. It's just the way of the world. Now, do you care about that? Or are you saying, well, I'm going to sell in a few years and I don't care anyway? Well, that's an internal thing I can't help you with. But
I'm going to pause you on that one.
okay.
I can help you with that one because I can put you
Okay.
with the people that can help you sell it. I don't do it myself, but I can tell you that you're going to get a higher multiple if you've got your house in order. And having your house in order involves a lot of things, including is the book growing. And in the majority of agencies out there, what I call sleeping on the job agencies, and there's many of those, the book ain't growing. If the book ain't growing, the multiple's slow. So you're sitting on a declining asset. It might be time to invest in turning that declining asset into a growing asset so that you can sell it at what it should be worth.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but don't you think your agency's worth more if it's branded well? If you have 1,000 or 2,000 followers on LinkedIn that are looking at your content, if you're already getting in front of new people, don't you think that's increasing the value of your agency? It absolutely is. So it's a short-sighted view. that they may not really realize is impacting them as much as it is.
They 1,000% don't. If they
Yeah.
did, 40,000 insurance agencies would be calling you today. If they did. By the way, for the listeners, if you made it this deep into the conversation, quite clearly you like the insurance nerd style. If you like the insurance nerd style, your social media and marketing in general should be lots of like should be fire shooting fire from the eyeballs kind of thing, right? Because otherwise you would not have watched this. You would not still be listening to us droning on, 45 minutes on or 40 minutes on. So if you made it this far, just go ahead and call Daniel right now. His LinkedIn is on the show notes below. And the company website is Market Retrievers. And by the way, no, we do not get commission on you calling Daniel. This is my sincere comment. All right. So looking at the website, so you guys do social media, SEO and organic search, digital advertising, email marketing, video marketing, marketing strategy, public public relations, website design and maintenance, lead generation and qualifying, event marketing, logistics, and even events. Wow. Okay. I'm curious about email marketing. Does email marketing still work? And how do you help agents with why is it the email just feels so old fashioned? And I'm a little bit playing devil's advocate here, right? But I mean, we've all had email for like 35 years. So why is email marketing still important in our space, and how do you help in that?
Yeah, so I'd say a couple things. Email absolutely can work. If you're providing some content in the email, it's valuable. If it's not just a cold email that's to a list that you've purchased that doesn't really have any validation to it. So, do you have the right audience? Are you sending a message that resonates with them? And are you using some best practices in your email that would help encourage people to see what that content is? If you're doing those things, email absolutely works. We see a very significant amount of traffic for carriers and insurtechs that we help with email marketing when they do those things. But yes, just like people joke around all the time about getting spam on LinkedIn messages, the same thing applies if you're just sending cold email or automated email that isn't customized to that audience. And yes, you can automate it and send it to thousands of people and get some response. Wouldn't you rather try to get some really good response by sending it to a really dedicated list of people that you feel are qualified to be getting that and want to know what you're talking about? I think so. I think that's a
Mhm.
better result.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a professional marketer, although I play one on LinkedIn. Um, uh, I love it. My main world is LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. My secondary main world is YouTube. And those two really feed me all the business I need. Basically, I go to a lot of in-person insurance conferences, largely because I enjoy them and I like doing magic at them. But I do bring a lot of business. But basically, when it comes to online, LinkedIn and YouTube are my world. Okay. Um, those two, along with every other platform, have a significant problem. The algorithm can change on a dime, right? And the algorithm changes, and all of a sudden, my exact same type of post is getting half as many impressions, right? Or my exact same video is getting half as many plays, and I have zero control over that. Email, when done well, it still reaches its targets, right? You have to use the right host, the right, I don't know if host is the right, you have to use the right service to do your mass emails. Like you said, you can't just buy a list, you have to build it organically. Depending on where you live and who your audience is, you have to do it GDPR compliant, which is a bit of a pain, right? But email still works. So much so, Insurance Nerds has a like decade old 8,000 people mailing list, and that newsletter goes out weekly. And the other side of my life, Top Hat Recruiting, just today announced that we are launching another newsletter, like a different email list, because those two businesses are related but separate. Why are we launching a whole new list in 2025? Because this particular list is specifically for people who are potential buyers of insurance talent services, while insurance nerds is a much broader, like everybody in insurance kind of thing, right? So yeah, we believe in it this much that we literally in May 2025, the first one goes out tomorrow, are literally launching a whole new email list
Yeah.
because it works.
Yeah, it changes a little, but to your point, it's not like an algorithm. So you certainly have to keep up with some trends. You have to understand that things matter, like what time you send it, what the subject line is, how you're writing some of these things. There are some things that are tracked that show you good results of, hey, we're seeing increased opens because of this in your subject line or the time of day. So yes, there are things like that. But to your point, the algorithms are different. They're testing things out all the time. They're doing things to make sure people are changing the way they do content. So that does matter and does make a difference, and you have to stay in front of it. But yes, email you can control a lot more once you've dialed in that audience, to your point.
So I yeah, I've read that basically marketing wise, your well tested GDPR compliant email list, your warm GDPR compliant email list is one of your most valuable marketing assets for most businesses. So if you don't have
Yeah,
it, you should be building it. If you have it and
it,
you're
it
not using it
matters.
well,
Yeah, and you could subsidize your list. You mentioned organically, which is even better. There are tools out there that can help. Leo is a great AI tool that has developed a little better way to put together some of those lists for you. So that's an example in the insurance industry
how
of
does that
somebody.
work? Tell us more.
Yeah, so Leo, helps comb through a lot of the data that's out there, whether it's state insurance data, whether it's data that's on the websites, and then has cultivated that to where you can find that information and download it. And they have verified lists you can download. You can plug it right into some of your AMS tools. So those are great ways for you to subsidize lists that you've built organically, looking it up with NAICS codes and other things to target certain industries, to target people that have X dates coming up. So tools like that really matter. Anybody selling insurance will tell you if you don't market to the people within their X date range, a lot of times they don't care about actually following
A
up.
1000%. I've never sold insurance. I've talked to enough insurance people, and I've interviewed enough people here. I would be shocked if a single human in 2025 uh, called you back when the one email they got from you was not close to their renewal.
Yeah, yeah, it's great to be on top of mind. But if they say, hey, I renew in 10 months, just wanted to talk to you, I don't think there's getting a lot of phone calls out there that says that. I mean, they want to do it when they want to do it, which is when it matters.
No question about that. Absolutely no question about that. All right. So you guys also do marketing consulting, graphic design, campaign planning, digital advertising, social media management, public relations. Okay, I think we covered all of it.
Yep.
Fantastic. So Daniel, thank you so much for your time today. Oh, the origin story. I forgot the origin story. We're a bit running out of time, but I would love to learn the origin story of market retrievers. I'm trying to come up with with a dog related metaphor here.
Yeah,
How
sure.
how was market how did market retrievers come to be and ended up with the name market retrievers?
Yeah, so I got in the insurance industry about 18 years ago. I worked for the Big I of Tennessee as their ended up being their chief marketing officer, chief operating officer. The marketing manager we had at the time, she and I discussed doing something different. And we talked about, hey, this industry needs a lot of marketing help. Is this an opportunity to try something different? So we looked at that option. We started an agency, like I said, about 4 years ago. And we said, what are we trying to help people do? Well, they have a target audience. So how can we get that target audience back in front of them? And we just thought about, you're fetching that audience. So her and her roommate, they had a golden retriever. I had a black lab at the time. So we kind of had some synergy there. And, most people love dogs, love animals,
Most people
get a
do.
lot of good feedback on it. It's memorable. People like it. A lot of the promo items we give out are related to that. So just kind of a fun thing we did that helps brand us, but ties into what we're trying to do for people. So
It it's a wonderful brand. I will
thank you.
tell you that at almost 700 episodes and with a bad memory, uh, it is hard for me keep track of who does what. I can barely keep track of who's been on the podcast. Basically, I run around insurance conferences and I see a booth and I look them up on YouTube to see if they've been on the podcast. If they have, I come over and say,
Yeah.
just coming over to say hi. Is Daniel here? Right? Because tell him that I came by. If I don't see him on the list, then I go on and I invite them on the podcast. But 92% of the time, when they have been on the podcast, if they ask me, okay, without looking at the branding behind me, what do we do? I would probably go blink blink. Right? It is rare that I remember. I'm gonna remember you guys because it's distinctive marketing.
Thank
and
you.
and
Yeah, that's what our goal is.
it's coherent. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Daniel. Thank you so much for your time today. When this goes live, I will tag both you and the company on LinkedIn. For the listeners, like I said before, if you listen this deep into it, thank you for your support and go check. You probably need to schedule a chat with Daniel because you wouldn't have listened this far if you didn't need marketing help. It could be that, or you have a crush on me. A little bit awkward, especially given the number of guys who own insurance agencies. Anyway, going way like the ADHD pill has worn off. So if you listen this late in the show, it's probably because you need marketing help. And at this point, I would happily vouch for Daniel, at least knowing what he's talking about. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a great one.
Great. Thanks.